Welcome to Recovery, the Whole Enchilada, a podcast dedicated to exploring the many layers of healing and growth within the recovery community. I'm your host, Peg McDermott, along with my co-host,
Heather Hagaman.
Heather Hagaman. Hello, my dear.
Hello.
And together we share conversations that honor the complete recovery experience. And today's topic and conversation is going to be around upcoming holidays and planning for those and planning for inevitable, not always, sometimes family challenges and how we've dealt with them, self-care, and stress management around the holidays. So how's that sound, Heather?
Sounds like something that is very important and vital for those of us on this journey that's less traveled by most, because I think the holidays are very, I'll use the word triggering. I mean, they can be very triggering. They can be very juicy. They can bring up a lot of past hurts. And of course, these are the shoulds and the oughts that sometimes happen, that we should be going and spending time with our family, or we ought to. And sometimes we have to do things differently. And I know I've had to do things differently to protect myself and to keep safe.
What has been your experience in the past, like while you were in your disease? What changes you made to take care of yourself?
I used to be I've tried to get very organized over the holidays and get all the presents wrapped and get everything ready to go so that I could drink my way through it. And which is so sad to think that I spent all that time, and then I would drink on Christmas Eve, big party at the husband's house and his family, and then my kids would be there, and anyway, and then I'd be hungover on the day of, and then we would go do the afternoon party at his sister's house. So it's just a lot of family that drank, and they drank, and I drank, and that's what I did. And yet I feel like I missed the joy of being present and really feeling good in my body. So once I let go of this strategy of addiction, I had to start thinking about how the holidays needed to be more joyful and more. I had to change the 20 plus years of going over to the same family member's house. That needed to end. And I asked for a sign, because I remember the first time I was sober doing this, I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. The sign came for me, and it was really because I was asking to have the children open the presents earlier, because this was a big problem, that it was a very adult party and everybody was drinking, and the kids would be patiently waiting to open presents, and it would be 9 o'clock at night and they're exhausted. And so in this case, now I'm hanging out with the kids. I'm actually experiencing what they've been experiencing all these years. And then I asked to open the presents, and I got yelled at. And in that moment, I was like, there's the sign. There it is. And I remember looking at my husband, and I just said, we are never doing this again. I actually walked outside, because back then in my early years, I'm going to be honest, I was a real hothead, and I could become I could fight. I was a fighter, and I wanted to jump on that person that yelled at me. So I walked out the door, and I called my sponsor, who had me breathe, and actually said one of the most important things. And I say this a lot: note to self, you'll never have to do this again. And that helps me get through those kinds of experiences.
Yeah.
So I started to change what we did, and I'll talk more about that. But how about you, Peg?
For me, in my history, was pretty good. We would go over to my grandmother's house and then my mom's. As after my grandmother passed, and my mom kind of took over the Thanksgiving meal. And it was just a really nice family time. I enjoyed spending time with my family. Things did change, though, after I stopped drinking and I got sober. It never felt unsafe around family during Thanksgiving. We were expected to be home when the holidays rolled around. And if I had made other plans, that was a big deal to not be there. So while my mother and brother were still on this earth, we always spent Thanksgiving together. And I've missed them, especially around the holidays, because we did have some pretty good memories. And I didn't have the best upbringing, but around the holidays, things were okay. And I did drink quite a bit when I was in the midst of my disease around the holidays. That's when I drank the heaviest, was around the holidays, because it was everywhere. Alcohol was everywhere. I had to learn how to behave differently. I went in not expecting things to be super different in terms of some of the dysfunctional behaviors that I saw that were just a normal part of our family dynamic, holiday or not. And I had to work with my mentor and sponsor ahead of time. I need to have a strategy. And I need to have a strategy around boundaries. I need to have a strategy around an exit, when I should exit, if I should exit, when will I know it's time to exit? How will I know I'm being triggered? Because sometimes I'm not even aware of it. Because I was so used to going into that mode around family that I never really knew any other way to be other than dysregulated. So while I say for the most part, family time was, I have good memories, I still had that deeply embedded dysregulation always going on, always, in all of my life situations, just because of the upbringing I had. I had to really look at, do I have a support system in place? And is there someone I can call if I don't leave or can't leave, but I need to talk to somebody? And I'd have numbers ahead of time. I don't need to go into that much preparation today because I feel pretty confident that I can take care of myself around anything that I feel is toxic. Thankfully, that doesn't happen very often, but I think it's important to have, I had to keep my expectations in check and not expect it. Just because I'm changing doesn't mean my family's going to change. But I did notice a lot more dysfunctional behavior that I was kind of more of an observer. And I thought, oh, how have I not ever noticed that before? How have I ever not noticed how disrespectful we can be to one another? Or those, again, those family roles and rules. So it wasn't all healing. I was there because I love my family, yes. For the most part, it was pleasant. And at the same time, it could still be challenging.
Yeah, I went right to Christmas. Again, I think this is what always makes me sad because this was dinner at, I think, my husband's brother's house, and just always wonderful food and beautiful. They really did great with the food and the hors d'oeuvres and all that fun stuff. And the alcohol just was perfectly paired with everything. Very foodie, very elegant experience. But for someone like me, but I think I was at the point, and what was sad for me is the kids and even the teen kids of the people, they were always like waiting for dinner. Like it was always this long happy hour going on. And I remember leaning on the bar in the basement, and I was being my flamboyant self. And the next thing I'm doing, I'm like, just going, what smell? And then I realized I had leaned right into the candle and my jacket was on fire. Which I have to tell you, they have never let me forget that one, okay? Yes, I pulled that off and had to stomp it off. And then changing that legacy was hard because people didn't make it easy for me. They would come up holding a drink to hand it to me. No, I don't drink anymore. Oh, you're no fun. I mean, there was this, and I just want to say, I look back and I just don't think they know the seriousness of why people have to stop drinking. I don't think they understand it's a life or death thing for us because it just doesn't resonate. But for people So I think the joking is they think it's funny, but I didn't think it was too funny. I started to claim my power back and make more of the holidays in my own home.
Mm.
And I did it with a woman in recovery, and her family came, and then my husband's family came, and I said I wasn't going to be providing any alcohol, and I said you could bring your own bottle, and that was a huge disaster because they came in with their scotch and their bourbon, and they got really drunk at my house, and I had to call cabs home for them, and they were falling all over the place, and I was like, that's not going to work either. So it is kind of a trial situation, right?
Mm. Wow.
I know.
Because they brought their own, they drank more?
I feel like they did. Yes.
So-
So from those experiences, I really feel like we've got to let go of this all or nothing and try to live in the gray of our experiences during the holiday. Yes, things are going to they're going to have memories. You're going to remember why you didn't particularly like to be around this person. There's going to be a lot of different things that are going on. But if we can keep a curious mind and we can just be like just noticing, interesting, this is interesting, and then keep track of it so you can talk to your therapist or to your sponsor about what you learned about your family. I think that's another thing. I started going into these situations to learn more about myself and to learn more about my husband's life growing up and trying to change my attitude towards it rather than it being such a, oh my gosh, I can't drink anymore. No, go in and meet people. It's not about drinking anymore. It's not about, never really was. You were just the only one that was drinking so much. I mean, people were gathering together to be with each other's families. So go and be around people and get to know people and get to learn more about your family system or your husband's family system. I think that I started to have a shift around that.
That's a good strategy because you diverted your attention from what used to be central in our holiday life was alcohol to what is it really about? It's about the people in our lives. It's about watching and observing and remembering the whole theme around this holiday is giving thanks for life and family and all of it. And I never thought of it that way. I do think of it now more because gratitude is more central in my day-to-day life today because it makes life a lot more pleasant. And I feel I'm more observant of what's happening around me, what people are saying, the atmosphere, and not trying to feel like I need to make the peace anywhere or fix something, just sort of just being. And that makes it even more enjoyable for me. And I'm going up to Syracuse for this holiday season to see my God family. So my dearest and oldest friend and her family, her children are my godchildren, and they're both married now. And then they had children. So it'll be a beautiful sort of family gathering. And I'll feel safe. I'm not worried about having to create some sort of a plan ahead of time, but that wasn't always the case. I had to figure out how am I going to navigate this holiday and the next holiday and not have any alcohol in the mix. And that's when I had to talk to my sponsor and people like you because I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to set it or keep a boundary. If I set a boundary, I didn't know how to keep it because I got a lot of pushback from family because they were who they were. I was the one that was changing, thankfully. And so I always thought if I opt out or leave early, self-care is selfish. And that's how it was positioned to me by family. If I do something to take care of myself, whether it's leaving early or whatever that might look like, I would get judged for it. And I had a whole big issue around self-care in general because it wasn't taught to me and I didn't really know how to do it healthfully. For me, self-care was drinking a lot and not feeling anything. And that had to change. And I couldn't do that by myself. So I would load up on meetings. I would load up on talking with safe people and getting their phone numbers and making sure I had my sponsor's number with me and letting her know this is where I'm going to be and I may call you. And she'd say, well, text me, let me know how it's going. And if it got to the point where I didn't feel comfortable, I would call her. But it felt good to know that I had this safety net and that if I decided to leave for whatever reason, it wasn't selfish. That self-care is not selfish. Self-care is about self-love. The things that I had to relearn around these big holidays was pretty amazing.
And so the whole idea for me today is to stick to a routine in which and not do the best I can, but maintain regular sleep, try to eat normally, the exercise too while I'm going through this time period. I mean, not putting these things aside and then really acknowledging the truth is that holidays can be difficult and not just for myself, but for even the people that I'm mentoring and sponsoring. I'll be hearing from them most probably. But the most important thing that I think that started to happen is I started to treat myself with compassion. And as I began as a sober woman to create new traditions, that's what happened. That's how things changed. So that today, when it's so funny because I was kind of very pushy on really making my children be here, my adult children be here at the holidays. They had to come home, they had to be with me. And now that they have partners and now there's children and now there's dogs and there's all this, it's just too much. It's just too much for me. And
Nervous.
my peace, my nervous system, right? So this year we have a new situation. My daughter's having a baby, and so she's almost ready to have the baby in a couple weeks. And I was like, you stay. She's 2 hours away. You stay there. Let your brother and his girlfriend come here. So each year it can get better, less stress. And then the next day, the angels around us will drive back. We'll drive to see her on 95, which could be unbelievable, but we will go and see her and my grandson. So the thing is, it's just being able to flow. We just keep with the focus that the spirit of the season is connection and creating new memories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about being around the people you love but also not losing, like I tend to lose my way sometimes because I get so tempted by the sugar. And that can be really difficult because the next thing you know, I'll be chomping on candy canes and breaking a tooth. So it's just not good for me.
No.
But we will work on that, hopefully, because I haven't been able to get it right yet. So
do you give yourself a little bit of a reprieve? Like we have a hard time doing things in moderation, right? But now, are you able to have a little, or is it like, no, I can't have anything?
I'm working on that. I'm working on that. We could do a whole talk on how sugar is such an addictive
substance.
Well, it really is. And they say it lights up parts of our brain when you do cocaine. I mean, it is, and heroin. I mean, it is that strong of a dopamine rush, the sugar. So I will resign myself to the saying, well, yes, I could have some, but can I control it? This is the hard part for me. And I do for a while, and then I just snap. And the next thing I know, I'm eating candy canes with my grandson sitting on the couch, and we're just pulling them off the tree. The little kid in me comes out.
Yes. And that's the thing is like, are we kind of honoring that little kid by saying, hey, let's have one and enjoy whatever it is that we're watching or doing with the family. That's not easy for us. More is better. That's what my mind tells me. More is better. I want 2 pieces of pumpkin pie. And I don't have the sugar issue, although I was showing you my gummy bears that I was eating earlier, because that is one of my weaknesses, is gummy bears. But I think, too, what I've noticed is that it's more of an attitude. I had to really change my attitude around, what does this holiday really mean? And looking around the people that I love and this time of year, and I can turn it into a cluster, or I can make it a lovely memory. And it's my choice. And the stress can be a very real issue. And so when we're in the middle of a gathering, a holiday gathering, and we're starting to feel that stress come up, what do we do? Do we do some deep breathing? Do we excuse ourselves and maybe go into the next room and just take a minute, go outside and make a phone call? Like, how have you handled that stress in the past?
Well, I learned right from the get-go, and this is for any of you that are listening today that are kind of maybe this is your first year for the holidays, staying close to the rooms, staying close to maybe even bringing a sober buddy with you to a party. Most of all, the first thing is to always have an exit strategy. I think that is probably one of the most important things, that you can drive yourself and you can leave with yourself. Really look at invitations with another pair of eyes on it to see if you do really need to go to that party. Is that really going to be supporting your emotional sobriety? Because that's where we can really get hit, right? I think also learning to, like, maybe work with your sponsor or work with somebody or a mentor or a good friend, is to practice refusal, practicing refusal skills. Rehearse polite but firm ways to decline offers of alcohol, or just, you could say, no thank you, I'm good, or I'm focusing on my health right now. I mean, like, how do you, because that's a big one. That is a big one. And I will never forget this. There's a party down the end of my street here, and I don't know, for the reason, that guy he wanted to have a drink with me so bad. So when I walked into his house with my husband, all the neighbors, he came right up to me and put a drink in my hand. My hand. Like, there's no way that I could pull it. So I have this drink in my hand, and my husband was standing right there. Thank goodness, bless his little sweetheart. Is that we were talking, and the guy walked away, and Joe just nicely took the drink out of my hand. He took the drink, and then he went to find me something else to give to me. Now, the guy was watching the whole thing, unbeknownst to me.
Interesting.
So then he comes up and he goes, "What, you don't drink?" And this was one of those moments, and I get a little fiery. I could have been more polite, and I could have said, "I don't drink." Instead, I said, "No, I don't drink because I'm an alcoholic in recovery." And it was like, he just backed up because I was a vampire. So, oh my God. Normally I don't come out of anonymity, but in that moment, I thought I would just spell it out for this person. I'm not recommending that you just say it. Sometimes we have to be honest like that. So I often will walk into parties bringing my own beverage.
Yeah.
It's a really good idea. And I just, like I said, just I just keep staying connected to people, staying close to people in the program, and then also making sure I stay on my routine. If I have to work out, I've got to do breath practices, I've got to do things, make sure that I'm doing that so it doesn't set me up to I'm not going to go back. I mean, I'll just say right now, I don't see myself ever going back to drinking, but I will go back to my emotional sobriety, going offline, and I'm much more kinder, and I will work harder on not trying to harm anybody with my words. But sometimes that can come out sideways if I'm pushed too far. I'm working on that, and I'm 100 times better than I've ever been, for sure.
Right.
I usually go quiet, and then I want to leave. That's what I do now.
Right. Rather than
harm anybody. Try to explain to you what's going on. There's no reason for that. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. I need to go.
And they're not going to change anyway. No
Right.
matter what you say to them, it's not going to
Yeah.
change whatever it is that they're doing, but you can change. And I think you're right about having the routine. And then when you're planning on going to a party, make sure you bring your own glass or have something that's
Right.
got your name on it. And you don't
Yes.
drink anything out of any glass other than the one that you have your name on. Because I've heard many times people going to parties or gatherings and accidentally.
But there's nothing more fun than going to a party where everybody there is not drinking.
Mhm,
These are the joyful new traditions that I love the
I
most.
agree. Yes.
So much fun. And I'm getting to a point where I might even like go out of town or do something differently, rent an Airbnb and go somewhere during the
Mhm.
holidays and just make it different. And every year's different. This year's completely different. And I think now, and I'm just saying now that we're older, my family's gone, now it's just me, and my young adult kids and my friends. I mean, it's a whole different life. And so it's just a reminder, don't give up before the miracle happens. Don't give up before life changes. Nothing stays the same. And the stronger you get, the more you will really covet your holidays and make them the best holidays of fun for you and for the people you love.
Agreed. And you do have power. You're not disempowered around this time of year. You can take care of yourself. You can have an exit strategy. You can have a support system ready. You've changed. The folks around you may not have changed, but you know how to take care of yourself today. We don't have the old coping mechanisms so that we can numb out and not feel when we're triggered. It's like we now know we have other tools that we can take care of ourselves with. And I didn't even know these tools even existed until I got sober. And it saved my life and has saved a lot of holidays, um, and helped me to be present and to make sure that I've prepared by going to extra meetings and making sure I have numbers and connecting with my sponsor and just being transparent with my support system. And that helped a lot. And that just going into a situation, knowing that I had that I had that foundation was very empowering. So if nothing else, we leave you with the fact that you are empowered today and you are loved. And we thank you for joining us on this episode of Recovery the Whole Enchilada. And if you connected with today's episode, please share it and like it and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Your feedback does help us shape future conversations. We love you, and remember that your recovery story, with all its flavors and textures and complexities, matters deeply. Until next time, stay strong and keep growing. Love you.